Oh, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to what would be part 18, 17, 19 of Kent Hovind's dissertation for his Doctor of Philosophy in Creation Education. We begin today on page 84. Back to the question, how old is the earth? According to the Bible times given in Genesis 5:11 and the chronologies given in many other places in the Bible, the date for the creation was about 4000 BC. By adding up the fact that Adam was 130 years old when Seth was born, and how old Seth was when his son was born, and so on, we can come up with a fairly accurate time. That would be about 6,000 years ago. I'm not one of these fellows that says Adam was created on April 7th at 4 p.m. I don't know the exact date. I would say that 4000 BC is probably within a couple hundred of years. I contend that the earth is 6,000 or 7,000 years old. There may be some slight error. For instance, was Adam 130 and a half years old when Seth was born? Are the dates rounded off to the nearest year? Was it on his birthday when his son was born? Did they use a year like us? Did they have a solar year, 365 and a quarter days? Did they use a Hebrew calendar, 360 days? There are some slight possibilities for some minor changes, but nothing that accounts for billions of years. There is no question that the Bible clearly teaches that the earth is young. Almost all Bible scholars of the past were persuaded that the earth was young. Persuaded that the earth was young. What happened? Why did Christians abandon the teaching that the earth is only 6,000 years old? Many of the Christians in the late 1800s, after Darwin's book The Origin of Species came out, began to try to compromise the historic position of the church to adjust to Darwin's theory. They tried to blend the evolutionary theory with the Bible. They began to say that maybe there were billions of years in the Bible. Several compromise positions were created. One of these is known as gap theory. They tried to insert a gap between Genesis 1:1 and Genesis 1:2. I believed the gap theory for quite some time. I had a Schofield Bible as a new Christian. It is an excellent Bible, but his notes are not inspired. Schofield said that there was a gap between verse 1 and verse 2. In that gap, they claim that Satan fell from heaven and the earth was destroyed. In that supposed gap, we are told to put the great ages that evolutionists proclaim as incontestable fact. We are told that there was a pre-Adamic civilization that included all the dinosaurs. We are told that this civilization was destroyed when Satan fell from heaven. There are a number of problems with that theory. The first problem is, it would be deceitful for God to hide millions of years in a gap like that and not make it known in other scriptures. Secondly, it would be against other scriptures in the Bible which indicate that a gap of millions or billions of years couldn't have been there. The Bible says a few verses later in Genesis 1:5, quote, "The evening and morning were the first day," end quote. Many modern translations of the Bible change the word "the" to to try to overcome this conflict. If there was a lot of time before verse 5, then verse 5 is telling a lie. Also, it says in Exodus 20:12 that God created the earth in 6 days. Another problem with the gap theory is the fact that it is contradicting Romans 5, where the Bible says that there was no death until Adam sinned. If there was some known kind of pre-Adamic civilization with dinosaurs and giant men or whatever they want to put in this supposed gap, they had to die when Satan fell from heaven and the earth became without form and void, as they read in verse 2. The dinosaur fossils are still here on earth. We have the skeletons, so they did die. That would mean that the Bible is a lie in the New Testament where it says that there was no death until Adam sinned. Probably the most serious contradiction the gap theory proponents must overcome is the plain testimony of Jesus himself. In Matthew 19:4, Jesus plainly said that the creation of Adam and Eve was in the beginning. Was Jesus not aware of the gap, or was he lying to his followers? I absolutely do not believe in the gap theory. If there is indeed a gap between Genesis 1:1 and 1:2 where Satan fell, it would be only a gap of a few hours. This is because verse 5 says it was the first day. There is no reason to try to put billions of years in the Bible's framework. The theistic evolutionists have said that the 6 days of creation were actually epochs, ages, or eons of years. 2 Peter 3:8, quote, "A day with the Lord is as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years as a day with the Lord," end quote. It is a commonly used verse to justify this compromise. This doctrine is silly if you actually analyze the argument. One reason that day-age theory would be silly is to look at the sequence in which God created all things. If you look at the sequence of creation, you would see why this argument is not reasonable or scientific. God created the plants on day 3 before he created the sun on day 4. If you think plants are going to survive for billions of years without the sun, you need to study more biology. I believe God did that on purpose to make us realize the days of creation were 24-hour days. He made the plants, herbs, trees, and grass on one day, and on the next day he created the sun. The problem is further complicated when we realize the insects that pollinate the plants were not created until day 5. The day-age theory is another unnecessary attempt by worried Christians to try to please these evolutionists. Let's look at another analogy regarding the age of the earth. Let's suppose you were to go out and find a sunken ship with a box of coins on that ship. When you open the box of coins, you find dates on the coins from all different ages. If there is a coin in the box from 1850, right away you are limited to say that the ship sank after 1850. If you find a coin in the box from 1820, that doesn't mean that the ship sank around 1820 because you also have an 1850 coin in there. You are limited to the youngest date in the box. It may have all sunk well after that time, but it cannot have sunk before that. If there is an 1850 coin in the box and it is not a forgery, then the ship didn't sink in 1849. The same analogy is true when trying to determine the age of the earth. We return many ways to date the age of the earth.